This is the story of a family destroyed by love, shame, and time, and a sister who never meant to ruin anyone. Before we dive into this haunting and emotional story, please let me know in the comments where you're listening from today. I love knowing where you're joining me from. There is a fence, and beyond it, a wide green pasture where men move like slow, deliberate shadows under the pale spring sky. They are hitting a small white ball, their voices carrying faintly on the breeze. A man named Luster hunts through the damp grass nearby, muttering to himself. He is looking for a lost quarter, a ticket to the travelling show tonight. Beside him, a larger man named Benjy holds tight to the wooden fence, his eyes fixed on the golfers. He does not speak, but a low, mournful sound escapes him, a hum of deep and wordless longing. Benjy is 33 years old today, yet his world is woven from memory and sensation, a tapestry where past and present blur. The word caddy drifts across the field, and suddenly he is no longer here. He is a child again, waiting at another fence in the cold, waiting for his sister Caddy to come home from school. The air then was sharp and bright, smelling of frost and fallen leaves. His hands, small and vulnerable, grew numb on the iron gate. Versh, the gentle house servant, chided him softly, urging him to keep his hands in his pockets. But Benjy waited, patient as stone, until he saw her, Caddy, running up the path, her book satchel swinging, her face alive with the cold. She smelled of trees, of wind, of outdoors. She knelt and took his frozen hands in hers, rubbing warmth back into them. "Did you come to meet me?" she whispered, her voice like a secret. In her presence, the world made sense. It was orderly. It was safe. Now, Luster's impatient voice pulls him back. "Ain't you something?" Luster says, shaking his head. 33 years old, going on this way. After I done went all the way to town to buy you that cake. Hush up that moaning. But Benjy cannot hush. The threads of memory are too strong, too vivid. He remembers the branch, the creek where they played as children. Caddy, Quentin, Jason and himself, with Versh watching over them. The water was cool and clear over the smooth stones. Caddy, daring and wild, took off her dress when it got wet, standing in her underthings as Quentin scolded her. The sunlight dappled through the trees, and the air was filled with the sound of their splashing and laughter. That day, Caddy promised him she would never run away. She held him, and her skin smelled like rain on trees, a smell he would cling to for the rest of his life, a smell that meant peace. But not all memories are so bright. There was the time of the sickness in the house, the time of whispered voices and closed doors. Their grandmother, Demuddy, was dying. The children were kept downstairs, told to be quiet, while strange sounds drifted from above. They sneaked out at night, peeking through the parlour window, seeing the grown-ups gathered like solemn shadows. Caddy, ever curious, climbed a tree to see clearer. When she looked into the room, she saw something that changed her. She came down quiet and still. Later, Benjy would feel a shift in the world, a loss he could not name, but felt in the new silence of the house, in the way Caddy sometimes stared into the distance. And there was the perfume. One day, Caddy came home smelling different. Not of trees and wind, but of something sweet and foreign. Benjy cried, a deep, guttural distress. He pushed her away, unable to bear the loss of her true scent. Caddy, understanding, washed the perfume off at the kitchen sink, scrubbing her skin until the familiar smell of soap and her own self returned. She held him then, and for a moment, the world was restored. But the change had begun. Caddy was growing up, stepping into a world Benjy could not follow. He remembers her in the swing with a boy named Charlie. He remembers the tension in the dark, the hushed, urgent whispers, his own rising panic. He ran to her, pulling at her dress, crying out until she broke away and took his hand, leading him back to the safety of the kitchen. She washed her mouth with kitchen soap, hard, as if scrubbing away a taint. Then she held him, crying herself, promising she would never do that again. But promises, Benjy senses, are fragile things in the face of time. Luster continues to search, rustling through the grass. Benjy watches the golfers walk away, their figures growing small and distant. The flag on the green flutters, a bright spot of colour. A bird lands near it, then flies off. Benjy's moaning softens. He is given a flower, a Jimpson weed, to hold. Its texture is rough, its smell sharp and green. For a moment, it holds his attention. Together, he and Luster walk along the fence toward the garden. Their shadows stretch long before them. They pass the carriage house, the barn, places saturated with older memories, of his mother's anxious trips to the cemetery, of his father's quiet presence, of Dilsey's steady, comforting voice in the kitchen, singing hymns while she cooked. Benjy's mind drifts to the day his name was changed. He was born Maury, but his mother, in her endless grief and superstition, renamed him Benjamin. He did not understand the words, but he felt the solemn weight of the moment, the sadness in Caddy's eyes as she told him, "Your name is Benjy now." It was as if a piece of him was being locked away, a door closing on a room he could never re-enter. Now, in the present, Luster grows frustrated. The quarter is still lost. The show is approaching. He tries to distract Benjy by the branch, pointing out other children playing, but Benjy's heart is a heavy, echoing chamber where every sound, every smell, is a key to a different time. He is a prisoner of memory, forever waiting at a fence for a sister who will never come home the same way again. The afternoon light begins to soften, casting long, golden beams through the trees. Inside the Compson house, the rituals of evening begin. Dilsey is in the kitchen, preparing a small birthday cake. She has lit candles, 33 of them, crowded onto the tiny surface. She knows the sadness of this house, feels it in her bones. She speaks of the Lord's own time, a time beyond the endless decay she sees around her. Benjy is brought inside to the fire. The warmth is gentle on his skin. He is given the cake, but his attention is caught by the flames dancing in the hearth. They twist and leap, forming bright, smooth shapes that feel more real than the furniture in the room. They are doors to other moments. In the fire, he can almost see Caddy as she was, a girl with flowers in her hair, a girl who smelled like trees, a girl who was his whole world before the world broke her, and broke him along with her. Luster, impatient, blows out the candles. Benjy cries at the sudden loss of light, but Dilsey is there, firm and kind. She scolds Luster and tends to Benjy, wrapping a cloth around a small burn on his hand. Her touch is sure, her voice a low murmur that soothes the chaos in his mind. For a moment, there is calm. He is taken to the library, a room of dark wood and silence. He sits on the floor before the fire, holding an old slipper, a treasure from a forgotten time. The room is quiet except for the steady tick of a clock and the crackle of the logs. In this silence, the past feels very close. He can almost hear the roof rattling from a long-ago rain, almost feel Caddy's arms around him, almost believe that if he is quiet enough, he can slip back into that lost, perfect day by the branch. But the present is insistent. Outside, the light is fading. The story of this day, his birthday, is drawing to a close. Yet another story is beginning elsewhere, in another time, tied to this one by blood and tragedy. In a rented room at Harvard University, years earlier, a young man named Quentin Compson lies awake. The shadow of a window sash falls across the wall, marking the slow passage of time. A watch, his father's gift, ticks relentlessly on the dresser. Its sound is a tiny, mechanical heartbeat, measuring out a life he no longer wishes to live. Quentin is trapped, not by a simple mind like Benjy, but by an intellect too sharp for its own good, by a heart too wounded to heal. He thinks of his father's cynical philosophy, that time is a dead thing, conquered only in moments when we forget to count it. He thinks of his sister, Caddy, and her lost virtue, a loss he feels as his own damnation. The memory of her is a physical pain, a sickness in his soul. He rises, methodically packs his trunk, leaving out only the suit he will wear today. He takes the watch, smashes its crystal, breaks off its hands. Yet it continues to tick, a blind, persistent machine. He paints a cut on his thumb with iodine, the sting of fleeting, honest sensation in a world grown numb. Dressed in his new suit, he walks into the Cambridge morning. The air is clean, the streets busy with students heading to chapel. He feels utterly separate from them, a ghost among the living. He goes to a jeweller, asks if the watches in the window are correct, though he cares little for the answer. He buys 2 flat irons, heavy and cold, wrapping them like a package. Their weight is a comfort, a concrete step toward a decided end. On a streetcar, surrounded by the chatter of strangers, he thinks of home, of the South, of the black servants who were more constant than his own family. He thinks of Roscus and Dilsey, of their timeless, patient presence, a stability his own family lack. He remembers a childhood moment, sitting in a schoolroom, counting the seconds until the bell, his insides twisting with anxiety. He was always out of sync, always either too fast or too slow, never arriving at the right moment. It is the story of his life. He gets off near a bridge, leaning on the railing to watch the water flow toward the sea. The water is dark and purposeful. He imagines his shadow trapped on the surface and wonders how to drown it. He thinks of the flat irons in his package, of their sure, dragging weight. He thinks of Caddy's wedding announcement, the words burned into his mind. Mr. and Mrs. Jason Richmond Compson announced the marriage of their daughter, Candice. The formality of it is a mockery of the messy, passionate, ruined truth. He encounters a familiar figure, Deacon, an older black man who makes a living catering to Harvard students. Deacon is a character, a performer of Southern nostalgia for young men far from home. Quentin feels a pang of complex emotion, affection, pity, resentment. He asks Deacon for a moment of his time. The older man agrees, ever accommodating. Quentin stands with him, the package heavy in his hand, the watch still ticking in his pocket, the rest of his chosen day stretching before him, a final, slow walk toward the bridge, toward the water, toward the end of all his sound and all his fury. But the story does not end with Quentin's quiet despair. It continues in the heart of the Compson household, with the brother who remained, Jason, the third son. If Benjy is all feeling and Quentin all tortured thought, Jason is all bitter, calculating action. The day is April 6th, 1928, the day before Benjy's birthday. Jason Compson IV is a man imprisoned by resentment. He sits at the breakfast table, his jaw tight, listening to his mother's endless complaints and hypochondria. He feels cheated of the job Caddy's husband had promised him, cheated of the inheritance he believes should have been his, cheated by a family that values faded honor over practical survival. His niece, Quentin, named for her dead uncle, is now a rebellious 17-year-old, a living reminder of Caddy's shame and his own failure to control the family's diminishing fortunes. Jason's world is one of ledgers and lies. He has been stealing the money Caddy sends each month for her daughter's care, replacing it with worthless checks, stashing the cash in a locked box. He drives to work in Jefferson, his thoughts a storm of contempt for the townspeople, for his family, for the show folks in town who distract his niece. He works in a farm supply store, a job beneath the Compson name, and he hates every moment of it. His day is a tense patrol. He learns that Quentin has skipped school again. His rage is cold and sharp. He tracks her movements, driven by a need to dominate and punish. He sees her with a man from the travelling show, a man with a red tie. The sight fills him with a righteous, venomous anger. This, to him, is the family curse repeating itself. Another woman about to throw away respectability. Another blow to the Compson name that he alone is trying to salvage. He confronts her that evening, their exchange a vicious dance. Quentin is all defiance, her eyes flashing with the same fire Caddy once had. She taunts him, tells him she hates him, hates the house, hates everything. Jason threatens her, his voice low and dangerous. He will not have her shame the family further. He will not have her waste the money he has, in his twisted logic, saved for her. The air between them crackles with mutual loathing. Later, Jason discovers that his hidden box has been broken into. The money, thousands of dollars, his secret hoard, is gone. A fury unlike any other consumes him. He knows instantly it was Quentin. He becomes a man possessed, rushing to the sheriff, demanding a manhunt. But his story is full of holes. He cannot explain why he had so much cash, cannot admit he stole it from his own niece's support. The sheriff is slow, skeptical. Jason's rage turns to a frantic, impotent despair. He spends the night chasing shadows, following false leads, his dreams of financial control and revenge crumbling into dust. He is the embodiment of the family's final decay, greedy, cruel, and ultimately powerless. And through it all, there is Dilsey. April 8th, 1928, Easter Sunday. While the Compsons fracture in their mansion, Dilsey Gibson rises in the pre-dawn chill of her own cabin. She is old, her body aches, but her spirit is unwavering. She lights a fire, prepares for the day. She has served the Compson family for decades, has nursed them, fed them, buried them. She has seen their glory and their grotesque decline. Today, she will take Benjy to her own church. The morning is cold and grey. She dresses Benjy with infinite patience, her large, rough hands gentle on his buttons. She leads him, Luster, and her own family through the quiet streets to the modest church. The service is fervent, alive. The preacher, a visitor from St. Louis, delivers a powerful sermon about the resurrection and the Lamb. He cries out, "I sees the day! I sees the crack in the light!" His voice fills the small space, and Dilsey sits upright, tears streaming down her face. She feels it. She understands endurance, suffering, and a grace that transcends the broken world of the Compsons. "I've seed the first and the last," she says afterward, her voice filled with a sorrowful wisdom. She has seen the beginning and the end of this family. Back at the house, chaos reigns. A screaming fit from Mrs. Compson, the aftermath of Quentin's flight, Jason's seething, silent fury. Dilsey moves through it all like a rock in a torrent. She serves the cold remains of yesterday's meal, she tends to Benjy, She offers a quiet, unshakable presence. She knows Quentin is gone for good, just as Caddy was. She knows Jason's rage will burn itself out into a new, more sullen bitterness. She knows Benjy will continue to moan for a lost sister. As the day ends, Luster, seeking to entertain Benjy, takes him for a carriage ride. He drives the old horse the wrong way around the town square. For Benjy, the familiar order of things, the monuments on the correct side, the storefronts in their proper sequence, is violently disrupted. He erupts in a terrible, panicked bellowing, a sound of pure, cosmic disorder. His hands clench, his body tenses. It is the sound of the world itself coming apart. Jason, hearing the commotion from the square, storms out. He is a volcano of pent-up rage. He shoves Luster aside, wrenches the horse's head around, and slaps Benjy hard across the face. "You damn fool!" he snarls. He corrects the carriage's path, restoring the familiar order. Benjy's bellowing subsides into quiet, shocked sobs. Order, a harsh, violent, unloving order, is restored. The carriage moves on, now going the right way. Benjy sits quietly, his shocked eyes seeing nothing. Everything is once again in its ordered place. The statues, the stores, the streets. But the peace is an illusion, bought with brutality. The Compson legacy is one of loss, of Caddy's purity, of Quentin's life, of Jason's humanity, of Benjy's peace. Only Dilsey, walking home from church earlier that day, had touched something real and enduring. She had seen the first and the last. She had heard the preacher, and she had believed. The sun sets on Jefferson. The Compson house stands silent, a tomb of old grievances and older ghosts. Benjy, in his simple soul, holds only the sensation of Caddy, the smell of trees, the safety of her arms, and the confused pain of her absence. It is all he has, and it is everything. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. We hope this haunting story stayed with you long after the final words. Let us know in the comments where you're listening from and which moment affected you the most. On a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate today's story? If you enjoyed this audiobook, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. There's another powerful story waiting for you on your screen right now. Click it to continue the journey. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.